Sorry.
Starting recording. Give us one. All right. Good afternoon. Today is October 1st, and we have
Heather Cox
and David Perlman, lovely co-host for MS Office Hours. Today we will have Clayton Orobio, who will from the University of Houston, and so he's going to spend a little bit of time. The floor is all yours, and we'll be recording this. So if you don't want to be recorded, please don't speak or have your video on. That'll be your only warning, and then we'll post this. Alrighty, go ahead.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
And is everyone able to see my screen?
We are.
Oh, awesome. So today I'll be going over the Microsoft flow that we've created to update information, add additional information from Active Directory from users, depending on their email address. So at U of H, we have several emails sent to help desk support, whether it's Gmail, Hotmail. The emails are not in Active Directory or through Active Directory. And those that do have Active Directory information, or those that are found in Active Directory, we would like to have information. So we started off with, after a ticket is created, we then start to initialize variables. All these right here are several initialized variables. We have a good amount of initialized variables due to the fact that we have conditionals, and if they're used, we'll set them and use them later on. So these are all the initialized variables, and then the parse JSON based upon the information that was when the item was created, that was provided. And then we make sure that the tickets, we have a conditional in regards to the value of the ticket's closed. It's not closed, that's when we actually create the ticket.
So maybe you can help set this up a little bit for us, Clayton. So
Sure.
you were getting, how many people on your help desk? First of all, let's start there.
On the help desk, at least overall, I'd say there's more than 20.
And then how many phone calls a day or emails were you guys kind of, just rough estimates in terms of help tickets and so forth?
A day, I'd say like around at least 400 wow. Or so.
So that's a lot. So what were you using previous to this before we get into the tool? I'm just trying to give people a little context.
Definitely. I believe before we used SharePoint Online, it was Remedy. That's what it was, software that was used to create tickets.
Great. And then you would have people get assigned those tickets, or they sat in a queue and you kind of tackled them first in, first out kind of thing?
Yeah, essentially that's how it was previously.
Okay. And so doing this, what has this helped enable for you, I guess, before we get into the nuts and bolts of it?
Essentially, I helped out with grabbing everything online, like everything, all the information is on one portal instead of having it separately. Because I believe when Remedy was used, there was other things that were used elsewhere instead of just having it one location. And
has this helped in terms of contact times or resolution, or do you guys metric that at all?
Yes, we use Power BI based upon what's in the information. So we track time when the ticket's been created and do the difference when the ticket's been closed. And we create Power BI charts to show that the statistics of that.
Awesome. Maybe you can show us that dashboard when you're all done if you have access to it. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I know that you folks do quite a bit there with a fairly finite staff. So I was just trying to kind of set the context in terms of what you're and some of the efficiencies you've seen. So please go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, most definitely, that's okay. I'll just demonstrate the Power BI reports after this.
Sure.
So we have the validating requester email. This is the validation to see if the person is found in Active Directory. Right here, get user profile is where we see if the email address is within AD. And if they are found, they're considered a good user. But by default, if they're not found in AD, we just have them set as unknown user. So we then parse the information from the user using get user profile. We add in the content here.
Mhm.
And this, for those that are curious, this is the schema. Right here in the object, we use the on-premise extensions, given name, surname, employee ID, and these can be found here. If we add any additional properties, these can be found here.
And so each of those is basically recreating their user profile. So you know, name, contact, where they work, and then there's an open field, I assume, for what they're requesting.
Yeah, it usually helps help desk in regards to, because sometimes tickets are sent because their passwords, the password no longer works, and then we can see last password change. Sometimes it's past that day. Like it'd be, we could see that the password already expired. In regards to, that'll help the help desk know that, oh, that'll be their issue, that they need to reset their password as into why things aren't working. And then U of H, passwords are good for 180 days. So we actually have a field within the flow that, sorry, parse information. We have a formulated expression that says that calculates plus 180 days. This is the formatting. Oh, there we go. Add days. I added it. The last password change plus 180, and it just shows the help desk the next time they need to change their password, and that's based off the last password that was provided within user resource type, one of the properties. So after we get all the information, we set a delay just to make sure the services don't get hit too much. And then we create an update to the ticket itself with the additional information. So this is where we would set the variables that we initially initialized at the beginning of the flow, and they're set here. So I have an example of one of the tickets. And we can look at the version history. So in the second to last version, or third to last version, is where the information is presented from the flow.
So this is now in a SharePoint site we're looking at, or you're still in your?
Oh yeah, this is a SharePoint site. It looks like this because we're using a third-party service called ProCanyon.
Okay.
And this is why it looks like that. But yeah, this is the additional information. So the ID of the user, the number associated with the user, their email address, and additional fields from extension attributes, which if I go to new form, will help explain each of these.
And this is the actual submittal form, Clayton?
Yes, this is the submittal form, and we connected each attribute with what they were supposed to show for U of H users.
So how long did it take you to get from we're going to design this flow to what we're looking at when you started building this?
With a lot of tests and trial, I'd say about 2 months, but that's because mostly my first couple of times working with Flow and seeing more about the user resource types, as well as getting more into the scope of what's needed for the project.
Awesome.
Does everyone want to see the Power BI dashboard?
We see a browser right now.
Oh, no, sorry. Did you want to see? I think we have time to show the.
Yeah, we have lots of time.
So here we are. Overall. So right now you're only seeing September and October because we archived all the tickets for August and July, but still haven't archived the things for September since we still allow users to give time for them. If they come back with tickets and reopen them, we don't want to archive tickets from September. So that's why we're seeing just these numbers.
And then from this report, can you actually drill down into the data a little bit in terms of?
We can see the source.
Okay.
So if I go for the month of September, and then Access UH. Sorry, not this one. I haven't worked the kink out of that one,
Okay,
but
no
I think by month, here we go. This is a better example. So the month of October, if I wanted to know the specific issue of film, or let's do September since there's more information. Access UH, and this is the ticket source, by the way. So we have 82 that were closed. Email, that's a big chunk. 823. Phone calls, close to 2,000.
A lot of phone calls too. Wow.
Yeah.
So has this forced more? Are more people using email now than they were before? Or still, a lot of people like to call in.
A lot of people are still calling in just to make sure that it's more direct. Just instantly, we get a person on the other line. But we do get a good amount of emails as well as automatic submission. So this is, or actually chat services, sorry. That's a good amount that people are using.
Great. So, so when you were going about building this, it was kind of trial and error. It sounds like first time, kind of you were using Flow.
Yeah, it was a good trial and error and learning the ways to work with Flow as well as with third-party solutions with SharePoint.
So what were some of the things that your key learnings, I guess, as you were going through this process?
How to work with expressions. That was something that was a good lesson in regards to, let's see, like for the example I was mentioning with the passwords, like adding 180 days, I didn't know exactly how to do that, or formatting expressions in regards to time. There we go, add days from last password. So yeah, days was adding 180 days. Once I figured it out, I was like, super excited.
That was one of the things that were holding you back. So
yeah.
What other areas do you think it's worth showing the folks that may have never seen this before or talking about as they kind of think about their own journey?
Oh, definitely.
So this is Carl Bernard with UT Health. Can I ask a quick question?
Sure, absolutely.
Sure thing.
So I was wondering, Clayton, what kind of background do you have? Are you a programmer? Do you have a programming background or not? Because I mean, looking at this and it's kind of in between formal programming and layman,
Layman
click,
terms.
point and click kind of thing. So
Yeah, I have 3 years now with working in web development. 2 years prior doing just help desk support. Overall, 5 years in IT. Definitely having experience in programming helped me move along with the flow process.
So, so from a Microsoft side, I've sat through some of these trainings. I do not spend all day in the tools, unfortunately, anymore. So, we kind of consider low code, no code. I think from my experience, because I'm getting ready, I thought I was going to take a certification on some of the things in the Power Automate platform. And, there's some things that you need to know around PowerShell, some basic logic. And I think some of it's going to come down to trial and error. So for me to try to recreate this right now would probably take me a little more than a little while. It sounds like, Clayton, you've done a nice job kind of pulling this together. How long, or, how did you make the ticket intake form? Did you use Microsoft Forms for that, or that was a question I think from Farhan?
Oh, okay. So this right here.
Yep.
This was already made for. This was based off Crow Canyon. They provided this service in regards to setting the look and feel of the form and adding additional fields to the ticket. So this is like if it was just a blank standard SharePoint list. This would be. This is actually just one list.
So it's a SharePoint list, essentially, with a form?
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah,
so
we purchased a help desk solution from the third-party vendor, Crow Canyon, and so the basic functionality of the ticket system was there, and Clayton and the team that he worked with extended that functionality with Power Automate for some of the things that it didn't have, like integration with PeopleSoft and pulling additional information from Active Directory.
Okay, so you're using the Empl ID or something from PeopleSoft in order to populate people, Andy?
We're actually using Active Directory, and then we're pulling the Empl ID for PeopleSoft from Active Directory because it's all replicated there.
So if you didn't have Canyon, I'm sure you could do a form, using Microsoft Forms or a view within SharePoint to make that intake form would be my answer for Han.
Absolutely. If you wanted to create your own form with Power Apps or Forms, you could absolutely do that.
Actually, I have an example.
Go ahead, Clayton.
Using this
Your
form.
show.
Oh yeah. Just to make it simple, I actually made it a really simple flow with Microsoft Forms and let's see, going to home. If people are more familiar with Forms, this is a better example. So not as extreme in regards to the information I was getting, but it still gives a good visual. So here I have a standard form, just entering the date, rating 1 to 10. Let's do an example. So today is the
first.
Yeah, the first. I forgot to put preview. Today is the first, and let's give it a 10 since, pat myself in the back. How can we improve? Please add in more questions. So we hit submit, and then on the flow, when a new response is submitted, get response details. And this is just a response details ID is just in correlation to the when a new response is submitted field. And then we add in, this right here is a scope, by the way. I'd just like to use that to make my the portions that I'm working with together. And these fields are here, given select fields. These can be found in the user resource type. And then we have this parse the get user information. And then we get the manager's Active Directory information. This is a scope. This is just the name of the scope. This is actual field that could be found within Flow. So just for an example, manager, it's right there. I'm gonna close this, and then based upon the user principal, which is the person here, filling out the form. And the last thing that was set, there, of course, we parsed the JSON data based off the manager. And the last part was to send an email to the person. the responder's email. And I have a copy of the email here. There we go. So I gave myself a 10. Please add in more questions, additional information. And this is the person's information, the number, or actually that's me. Username, email, and then department. And then my manager, my supervisor has his username, number, and department.
So you build your form, and then that's a much more straightforward process than what you built just in looking at that. That's probably a good way to start, right? Build a basic form and then start playing with flow a little bit. We have something similar, probably about that level of complexity, that we use for office hours. So when people register, we take the intake from that form. We then, we create a number of emails that go out from that, and then we actually add them to the actually, I need to fix that. We need to add them automatically to the guest user list for MS Office hours, but we do edit that a little bit because sometimes there's a third party that doesn't look like it's coming from an EDU or a partner that I've worked with before. So we try to screen those a little bit. Let's see, we have another question here. Sorry, Clayton.
You're good.
Let's see, I was thinking UH might know as they're. Okay, so we'll ask Marge. I don't know, Andy, or if anybody from UH saw this. I don't think that we've connected PS to Power Automate. Have you connected PeopleSoft to Power Automate and Andy doesn't know about it at all, Clayton?
That I don't know exactly. And I believe
So
the fields.
The last time I looked for a connector in Power Automate to PeopleSoft, there wasn't one, but it's been a really long time since I've looked.
I will send a list here of all the Power Apps Publisher. Here's a list of connectors, and there's about 100 of them. Actually, there's more than that. I'll put that in the chat pane, and Steve, if you could copy that over into the community call. We keep adding to that all the time, and if something isn't in there, let me see real quick if we have PeopleSoft. I feel like Informix, there's a lot of them out there now. K2, bear with me here. Keep going, Clayton. I don't want to interrupt you, even though I am.
Yeah, that was essentially the email is the last part in regards to saying the information.
Yeah, I didn't see PeopleSoft on that connector list.
Yeah, I didn't either. I'll ask one of our Power Automate folks as well, because they're going to be coming on and covering licensing, or maybe Heather or I will take it. So we'll find that out. But it would seem like we would want to at some point to be able to get at some of that information. Although it sounds like you've integrated with Active Directory, at least for the University of Houston scenario.
Yeah,
So,
unfortunately, it's a much more indirect way than I'm sure that they'd like to be able to do it. We have an LDAP feed that comes from PeopleSoft and populates Active Directory, and then we use Power Automate to pull that information from Active Directory and drop it into our ticket system.
yeah, nope, that makes sense. So I don't see PeopleSoft in here, at least for the Power Automate connectors. I can look. I think Marge, you had a follow up on the Power BI. So it looks great. Clayton, is there anything else you wanted to highlight? Maybe we'll take a couple of questions.
I can take a couple of questions. Yeah.
Okay. So we have a question from Alex. He says, "Very nice job," and
Thank
that's
you.
where you say. Does your flow take care of
Sorry.
incoming and outgoing emails from your customers and users?
Yes. So we have another flow for that, not in the same flow. Glad he asked. That's a good question. For incoming emails, so if it's set to, it's a similar process, but it starts off with when a new email arrives, which the email for help desk is connected here. And then it's a very similar process. And then making sure it has the conditionals of the subject, making sure it doesn't have the following. Like it's not, this is the subject that we have for forms. So when we use forms using JSON, this is the main subject of the email. Making sure it's not an automatic reply. It's not from Microsoft. So it's not sending us like the email associated with support sometimes gets Microsoft emails. So we make sure it doesn't create a ticket. That's why it shows there. And then ticket ID and certain things. Because we have our ticketing system, all the tickets that have been created start off with ticket ID. And we're making sure that shows us that's a reply. So all the reply emails start off with ticket ID. So we make sure when it's original incoming emails that it doesn't contain it. And other conditionals that we have here. But yeah, so once we make sure we filter out the subject for the conditional, it's the same, essentially same thing, get user profile. If it fails, that's when we use a non-user. So that's where we put unknown at CougarNet. But if it does pass, it's the same thing we saw earlier. We parse the information and then set variables.
Greg is letting us know that for some reason Spotlight is on. Can you see his desktop at all, Heather?
I can see his desktop, yeah.
So can I. So Greg, maybe check your own, see if you have Spotlighted on for some reason.
I can't see it either, Dave and Heather.
Okay.
I can, should I stop and share it again?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll do that.
potentially, yeah, because I can see it just fine.
Greg said he had to click his desktop, so it sounded like some people were still in Spotlight mode from me goofing around. So if you can't see that, maybe check his
I see it
picture.
now.
I guess we've learned some good things around Spotlight.
Yeah, I've written that down with a big giant star next to it to spend some time digging in.
We'll find out. So let's do this, Clayton. This is great. It sounds like Andy. Anything that? So Clayton, thank you for walking us through that. From an impact perspective, Andy, any summary kind of things? I know you'd originally highlighted this just in terms of help desk working. You're a little bit removed, I guess, from that function, but any insights in terms of what this has helped your organization with?
Well, really, it's just helped us with getting a complete set of information around the users that submit things to the help desk. One of the things that I mean, just the whole trying to get PeopleSoft information connected with Active Directory information isn't always easy to start with. You know, once Clayton figured out, and it's up a little bit higher when you pull the user's profile information, you have the ability to tell that task to grab additional fields. So I think that's under the show advanced options for the get user profile.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can specify, you know, and it was the on-premises extension attributes, which are attributes that are very specific to us, but can be very, very useful in figuring out what Office 365 license the user has, what their user ID and PeopleSoft is, as well as a whole host of other things that we store in Active Directory, but don't have a specific, you know, title. So being able to grab that information from Active Directory and then leverage that information in the ticket system has been huge for us.
Excellent. No, that's a great summary. So I'm going to stop recording here, and if we have any last minute questions, I think that